All right. Welcome, everyone, to the RSP Film Room number 45. I am Matt Waldman, and if you are new to this show, I'm a writer for the Rookie Scouting Portfolio. That is my publication and blog, and I've been doing this film room for now 45 episodes, and it's just an opportunity to watch tape with a variety of draft analysts, players, and writers from around the web, and talk about what we see and what we learn from the game of football. And today is going to be a unique episode because one of our returning guests is running back Chad Spann, who has had stints with the Texans, the Jets, the Steelers, the Colts, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And he is the former, was it 2012 MAC 10 Player of the Year? I think it is a 2012 MAC 10 Player of the Year. Yeah, okay. MAC Player of the Year. So Chad is going to be joining us, and we are going to actually be looking at skills and drills of the running back position. And Chad is actually providing us some tape of some of the work that he has done both at NIU and at Minnesota with David Cobb. And a lot of these drills are drills that he's made up with the trainer. And there's a lot of parallels to that, with some of the things I've experienced even just as a musician growing up, where you want to work on certain skills, you develop exercises for yourself to get better at it, and this is what you're going to see here. So we're going to have Chad walk us through a lot of these skills and drills and what the purposes of them and what good technique is, and learn more about the position and how people train for it. So Chad, welcome again to the show, and thanks for coming on. I can't hear you.
Let me see here.
There you go. You're good now.
Am I good now?
Yeah, you're good now. Welcome.
Okay. Oh, and that was it was 2010. I was
2010.
Yeah, yep, 2010. As soon as you said it, I looked over in the corner. I had the trophy sitting right here, and all I could see was the 10 part of it. Everything else is covered up, so I could see the 10. So yeah,
that's cool. Time flies, man. Because yeah, that doesn't feel like that long ago. So that's cool. Well, good. So can you talk a little bit about, really when it comes to drilling and what kind of things are worked on, and just kind of explain to me what you did before, what you were explaining to me before we got on the air, which is, why you developed some of these drills and what was the purpose behind some of this?
Well, I've tried to make as much as the work I do in the off season is similar to real life game action. So I ended up spending a lot of time studying film of what I do, studying film of what other guys do, and trying to simulate that in drills. So we kind of, me and my trainer and other coaches that I've worked with over the years, we kind of sat down and I would tell them, okay, this is the kind of concept I need to work on, and let's figure out a way to do it. And we put our minds together and kind of invented some drills or altered some drills that have already been in place for years, and came up with some pretty good stuff.
That's awesome, and to me that's great, because it's just more of a practical application of skills and not just doing the same thing over and over again if it's not really going to specifically apply to what you need to do. So we're going to share the tape right now. Chad sent me some of these clips, so I'm going to go ahead and share the screen with what we have started here. And Chad's just going to walk us through, what we see to begin with. And I think we're going to start with this first one. If I can get this pulled up here.
All right. This is that is actually a 3-way cut drill that we used. We set up 6 cones. 5 yards apart. Each cone is 5 yards apart, and if we went to a different clip, you'd see the agility bags that are on the floor simulate running through the offensive line. So simulate having to put 2 hands on the ball, keep your head up, and being able to see what's going on at the next level. So that's what a lot of guys get tripped at the line of scrimmage. They fall down because an offensive lineman trying to hold a block kicks his leg back and they fall over him, or defensive lineman falling down, swiping at legs, anything like that. So that's what the agility bags are there for, to make sure you're picking your feet up as you're running through the hole. Now, with these 6 cones, with these 6 cones, it depends on what kind of play we're running. So this is a straight downhill run that you keep seeing right here. And so I'm attacking the middle cone. I'm attacking it going forward, and then wherever the hole is, wherever the hole is, which is predetermined before the drill, that I'm going to cut to the right. I'm going to that cone, that cone on the right, and then I am either doing a speed turn or a cut up the field to get back upfield and make gain more yards. And there's a big difference between a speed turn, or where you're kind of just gradually turning, like you see guys running the 200 meters, and they're coming off that back turn, and it's just gradually getting straighter and straighter. They're leaning, and then they're gradually coming straight up. That's a speed turn as far as running backs go. They do the same thing, and there's a reason why you do it, and I'll explain a little in more detail later when we look at a different clip. But it's either that speed turn or it's just a sharp turn where you put your foot in the ground and you cut north and south. This right here is an example of that speed turn.
Excellent. Excellent. I've certainly seen backs who you can tell have a pronounced good speed turn. A guy like, we looked at Amir Abdullah. He's an example of a guy with a good speed turn, or Duke Johnson, I think, have a pretty good speed turn in terms of their ability to accelerate and get around a corner like that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Should we go on to the next one then?
Yeah, I'll pull up the next one.
All right. So we got that one. Let's do this one here.
Nice. That's another speed turn there, and the purpose of it is when say there's a safety coming from the other side of the field, coming from our right, my left, playing as a runner on my left, but as we're watching it our right, and he's closing down on the angle, and he's coming across to try to make that tackle. But when he's doing that, I want to use that speed turn to ruin his angle. So to make him have to run further to get to me as I'm still accelerating, going north and south.
Sure, like as if he's this arrow coming downhill from the inside here, inside out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are things, if you were watching a running back going through drills like this, and you're watching yourself in this case, what are some of the things that you would be looking for to say, okay, that he's getting the legs up, that you're getting that one good plant and exploding off that plant? Is there anything that you would be looking at in terms of the feet, in terms of that plant and explosion? Do you want to be on the balls of your feet? Is there anything that you would look at and say?
Well, definitely you want to be leaning forward. You want to be on the balls of your feet. I'm kind of standing a little bit straight up. I don't know how many times I've done it by this time, by this recording, but I'm kind of standing straight up as I'm going over the bags. And you want to be lower. You want to have that low pad level because you don't want to give away any of your chest or arms. So you want to have that low pad level, and you want to be able to, like you said, stick that foot in the ground and get to where you need to go.
Makes sense. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. So let's see what we got coming up. What we got on the next part of the tape here. All right. That we've seen those that we're going to see for this particular. The next section that you have is, I believe, throughway cuts with pad level.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a look at some of those here.
So this is the same drill, but instead of using the agility bags to make sure I'm picking my feet up, we use one of these crossbars to make sure that I am staying low on my first cut. So I'm keeping my pad level low as I'm going through the line of scrimmage, and I'm making a cut off the cone. So this is inside zone. And I'm talking. I talk a lot when I work out. We crack a lot of jokes.
Sure.
I'm glad you got the sound off. But this is essentially the same drill, inside zone. Now what we have, where I'm still starting under center, where I begin the play is under center, but we set the middle cone up where the hole would be. Instead of being right under center like the last play, the middle cone is always going to be where the hole's going to be. So where I go through the offensive line, that's where that cone is set up. And this one, I'm making another right cut, and I'm drifting up the field. I'm making that little speed turn up the field.
Cool. So, one of the backs I remember who always ran with great pad level, especially even early in his career, was Edgerrin James.
Yep.
His pad level was just unbelievable. are you, I mean, what are some things that you're looking at? I mean, from the standpoint of like your legs and your knees, and I mean, it would seem to me that that this is something that you have to do a good bit of training just to be able to stay at that kind of a low kind of alignment on a regular basis while running like that. I would think that that there's going to be a lot of emphasis on weight training and
Being
work.
able to bend, yeah, absolutely. Well, what I like to do, the last drill that we did and this drill, I like to do on separate days, and it's almost like you're building up, because this is the harder part of the drill, is keeping your pads low and keeping your head up. So when you're going, if we started out and say I've never done this drill before, and this is how I started when I was a junior in college, and the guy who's actually filming this was the GA who started teaching me some of these things when I was a junior at Northern Illinois. But he taught me that, when you go under this crossbar, you got to be able to keep your head up. And if you don't keep your head up, you're going to fall. And a lot of times, that was a problem of mine early in my high school or my college career, is, I'd get through holes and I would get to leaning forward and I'd fall down. And it's because when I tried to lower my pad level, I would drop my head.
Yeah.
So when you drop your head, your knee drive drops, and you don't pull your toes up anymore when you run. So putting these two drills together, doing one first, learning to pick your knees up, pick your feet up as you're running, and then learning how to lower your pad level and keep your head up at the same time. Doing those back to back really emphasizes how to run at that pad level with the same speed and the same ability to make a move at any point in time.
This is why backs like, to me, Darren McFadden, even Niall Davis, and Tevin Coleman, as an example, this year, are backs who, when they do engage and get their pad level and drop it, you often see their heads drop, and you don't see them driving through and getting as many yards after contact as their natural strength may indicate that they could.
Yep. To me, when you drop your head, you're basically saying the play's over. As soon as your head drops, the play's over, because your body's going to follow you. And that's what my coach, my GA, who's recording this right now, he's a coach now, but he was a GA at the time when we started doing this kind of training. He said, wherever your head goes, wherever your eyes go, your body's going to follow. So as soon as you drop your head, as well as your pad level, you're going to go down to the ground. And that's why these two drills back to back are so important.
Yeah, and I would recommend anybody who is looking at this and going, well, I mean, why would you have to build up to something like this if you're kind of you're a younger person, or you've just wondering, can't be that hard kind of running like that. Try doing squats. And I'm not talking about weighted squats, but sitting there with making sure that your heels are in the ground and that you're doing a full squat where your butt touches the back of your calves, and come back up and do as many of those as you possibly can. And, if you can do, if you're in decent shape and you can do a good 50 to 60, and I'm talking not decent athletic shape like Chad here, but like somebody who might run a couple miles, a day, that kind of thing. Try and do some of that, and you're going to see how worn out your quads get.
Yep.
Doing that kind of work, as well as your abs, because of how much work that it requires to just really work on your core. It's one of the best exercises you can probably do.
Yeah.
So.
If you look closely, and I wish we'd had a side view, but look how straight my back is going through the drill, and look how my butt drops down, as opposed to me just bending at the waist and getting underneath there. I'm actually dropping my hips. I'm dipping my head just a little bit, but I'm dropping my hips, so I'm able to make that cut right there. If I don't drop my hips and I just bend at the waist, I'm not able to see or make that next cut.
Let's look at it, see if I can catch it real quick. Let's see, here we go. Yeah. Nice. All right, let's see what we got next here real quick. Let's see. And are these some? Let's see. We got the next one here.
A lot of these they're all this. There are a lot of them are the same, just making different cuts at different angles. You can go to the next one.
Okay.
Actually, you can hit that next. Oh no, you can't. Never mind. I was gonna say you can hit that next arrow, but no, you can't.
Let me get rid of that folder so I don't get too confused. And then you got that cut to the opposite side.
Yeah.
Do you find that, as you know, are you a right-handed or left-handed? As a right-handed person, I would imagine, or a left-handed person, is it hard to go to one side or the other?
I actually find it easier to cut to the left than I do the right. Um, and I think it's because for a lot of athletes, if your right hand's your strong hand, then your left leg is your stronger leg. When I was a long jumper in high school, I was a left leg jumper. Um, so pushing off to my right is easier. With pushing off my left leg is easier to me than pushing off my right leg. It just feels more fluid and more comfortable.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Well, on to the next one then. And it looks like you're I mean, this gives you a really good idea from an exercise standpoint of like your alignment in a backfield.
Yep.
Whether you're in a, whether you're split, flanking the quarterback to his one side or the other, or whether you're directly behind.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, that middle cone where the crossbar set up is not necessarily where the center is, but where the hole's going to be.
Gotcha.
So I'm simulating running inside zone, getting through the offensive line and making that cutback.
Do you ever try and imagine how a play is developing while you're doing this?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. The film that we couldn't see in the last one, the one that was the stuff that was upside down, I was working with some running backs at Northern, and I don't have the ones of David Cobb that I was doing it to here, but when I wasn't doing the drill, I would stand at one of these cones and I would chase. I would dip one direction and then I would chase so that they could get a feel for why they're making this cut, and then why that speed turn is so important.
That's excellent, and I really enjoy seeing these exercises because it does show that integration of different things that you would be doing on the field. Because I mean, I often see skills like, when I go to the Senior Bowl and I watch a practice and I see things like pass protection drills, I keep thinking some of these drills almost encourage someone just to practice for the test, but not really like they're teaching to the test, but not teaching for the game.
Yep.
And so you become really good at a drill, but then what about the diagnosis? What about if you have to diagnose like two guys coming at the same time and which one you have to pick up?
Yep.
Those things you're not going to see. So I'm looking at a guy in an exercise. I'm going, well, I'm glad that he got the hang of this drill, but I still watch him on tape and I'm thinking I'm still not sure he knows how to pick up this particular situation that plagues him week after week.
Exactly. And that's what this is. I can work on that cut, making that one cut all day long. And that's what a lot of people do. They work on making cuts. Boom, 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 boom. But what are you going to do after that cut? If I can make that cut and then I just start drifting off, I don't know what to do next. I'm gonna get tackled because I don't know how to run away from the person I just cut off of. And that's exactly what I'm training here. I'm actually working on three things. I'm working on lowering my pad level through the line of scrimmage. I'm working on making this cut at the second level and then running away from the pursuit. It's packaging all these things together. So when I get on the field and I have to do all three of these things in one play, it's not brand new.
And can you talk about the importance of like quality reps? Because, obviously if you're saying someone could do this all day and you're going to, obviously you want to make sure that you rest your body so that you're not overworking at certain areas of your body and get yourself susceptible to injury. But, when people talk about doing quality reps and being focused with it, can you give a little bit more of a explanation why that's important and what that means?
Definitely, man. You never want to just, take a rep off, slack off, because what you're trying to train here is you're trying to train your body into a certain movement, making this muscle memory as opposed to you having to think about doing it. And if you start to take reps off, you start to, halfway go through a rep, then your body's going to get used to that. And I think they said it takes 27 times of you doing something with your body before it becomes memory. And so if you do this 26 times right perfectly, and then you take the 27th one off, then now you have to start all over again. Or, you know, you get to 16 and then 17. Okay, I'm gonna go easy on 17. Well, now you got to start back over at 1. Well, that's how your body, your body thinks. So, making sure that you're taking quality reps, which may mean you need to slow down. You need to take a little bit of a break in between. Make sure you don't want to be 100% every rep, but, make sure you're not 40% or 30% when you're trying to, work on a technique, because you won't be able to do it.
Yeah, and you're, obviously as a pro, you're showing that you're doing this at a really good speed. But I think I like the fact that you talk about slow down and make sure you're doing it right. As a former saxophonist, well, we're both former saxophonists actually. Yeah, there's one of my favorite saxophonists used to play. Actually, did studio sessions with the group Cameo. But he's done probably about 800 different albums. But he was probably one of the great players of all time, and he talked about he could play things at an unbelievably fast pace that was very clear and very articulate, and he had the whole range of being able to master his instrument. And he talked about how in order to play fast, you had to be able to show that you could do it really slow.
Yep.
And that if you could do it at super slow and super defined at that rate, you could do it fast.
Yep. And that's how all these drills started off when I started doing them, 3-4 years prior to this filming. I had to take it slow. I had to make sure I was able to do it. I understood why I was doing each thing. And I mean, and that's a big part of it. Understanding the why behind the what. Because like you said, you can teach one guy a drill, and he can master the drill, but if he doesn't know when and where or why to use it, then it's no point.
Yeah, and it really does come, when people say it just comes down to hard work, I mean, the root issue here is like, look, you're going to start going slow, and you're probably going to sweat and be more tired emotionally, physically, and mentally going through those slow reps just to get it than you are probably once you built it up to speed and get that memory. That's the hard, kind of plowing the soil type of thing.
Yeah.
So
I was there in Minnesota training with them for 2 weeks. This is probably, my 10th day there. We waited a whole week before we started recording stuff because we wanted to make sure we understood what we were doing, why we were doing it, and how to do it properly.
That's great. That's great insight, because I always love, especially for young people, because I think they often look at this and go, oh, well, he's doing this pretty easy. I need to be, I'm going to try and do it just like this. And they can skip the steps of saying this was hard at the beginning, and it took effort and it takes time, even for folks who've mastered it and are doing it on the bigger stage.
Yep. Now that one wasn't as good as far as you could really see on the last clip that we watched, the dropping of the pads. This one I kind of ducked down just because I was going straight ahead. But even as I dip down, I drop my shoulders. Watch my head. My head never dips over. My eyes are always up.
Yeah. And to me, that it's that leverage. It's that leverage that helps generate that power, that leverage and momentum. In addition to what natural strength you have, but it's that ped level that's so important to getting those extra yards inside. Let's look at the next. All right, let's see. Y'all don't want to look at my fish here. There we go.
That's more of the exaggerated speed turn.
Okay. Let's give it one more look. And this looks like a kind of play, the way that you move your feet. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. I see. I was going to ask you what is this also, what kind of play are you simulating on this?
The step over? No, that was just me being too far away.
Okay.
Yeah. That was just me being too far away.
Okay. Like, oh, okay. There we go. And what about that one step after the snap that you're simulating? Not the one you're moving over, but this one elongated step to the right.
This is something we did at Northern a lot. It was even though we didn't run a whole lot of outside zone, that first step was always supposed to look like it. So it's more flat, and that's not necessarily good. That's not necessarily how they teach it now, especially I mean, when I run outside zone, my step is going to be towards the offensive line as opposed to laterally or even a little bit behind me. But when I run inside zone, it looks more flat. So that's why that step is flat. It's to make it seem like I'm running outside zone, make my body turn like it's outside zone, and then still being able to come down. So you see my whole body turn as if I was going off tackle, except for my head. My head stays square, and my head, finds the hole and keeps on going.
Gotcha. So it's almost a way of trying to throw off a linebacker or a defender's key.
Exactly.
On you.
It's those little subtle things that help the offensive line get the leverage to make your hole more defined and clear.
Excellent.
That may move the Mike linebacker over 2-3 inches, and if that moved him over 3 inches, then that may have given my center guard combo up to him just that much more leverage to make the block better.
Beautiful. All right. So let's look at this next one we got here.
See, now that's more of the sharp cut upfield right there. Hit it, boom, put your foot in the ground, get upfield. And we use that cut more when there's more defenders outside of you. So you use that speed cut when you have the sideline, you have the space to take away. But here, say there's a cover 2 corner sitting there. I got to get upfield and get as many yards as I can right now. So that's what that put your foot in the ground and get north and south right now is.
And I think that this is such a stark way of illustrating how important it is when you're practicing to visualize what's going on. Because as you're describing the situation of how you would use this, you really do have to try and imagine what's going on at the line of scrimmage to see the context in it and to really make it. And then that also you think about, okay, well, if I'm a running back and I'm learning how to do this, I've got to imagine this enough because I want to be able to, the minute I see it as I'm getting the ball or even before I'm getting the ball, I want to be able to, I just want to react to what I'm doing.
Exactly. And I would be doing the world a disservice if I threw this up on YouTube and I had young running backs just seeing what I'm doing and trying to emulate it, because I'm not explaining to them why I'm doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if they don't know that I'm making this cut because I'm cutting off of a defender outside of me, then they're just doing stuff to just be doing it. And that's one thing that I've always taken pride in is understanding why I'm doing each drill. What is it simulating? Where can I use this? I mean, that's just comes with knowledge of the game, football IQ, and I think it makes things a lot easier if you understand what's going on around you.
Absolutely. And I think that this is something that, I was talking about this on a show last week with a quarterback coach by the name of Will Hewlett, who works at the range. And we were looking at Marcus Mariota, and he talked about the idea that, teaching people why, teaching players why is such an important concept, because otherwise they're not going to be able to self-correct when it comes to practicing and have a method for continuously correcting themselves and training themselves down the line. Otherwise, they can regress and get into bad habits and then really not have absorbed the lessons that they're learning in a practice.
Absolutely. I mean, quarterbacks do it all the time. Chandler Harnish is now with the Arizona Cardinals. He's a good friend of mine since college. We played together, and we've remained very good friends, and we train together. And sometimes I'll run routes for him, and I'll line up in the slot, and he'll tell me, "Okay, Chad, I need you to run a seam with cover 2," and so he's visualizing what the coverage is without anybody else being there, and I have to run the right properly off of that. And then after maybe a couple reps, he'll say, "Okay, now it's cover 3. Now I have to make the adjustment." And he understands what that adjustment's going to be off of what defense he's visualizing that he's seeing out there. So, I mean, that concept carries over from just the quarterback position, as you can see with these drills.
Yeah, no, I mean, it really is something else because it's it's important. I mean, you see, I think a lot of this also has to do with age of for some guys, it has to do with their age and maturity. So that's why evaluation of players is so difficult in a lot of respects, because especially a position like quarterback, but I think a lot of positions as a whole, because when you look at guys, and I feel like when I say this to you, because because how old are you now?
26.
26. Okay. When I say this, I feel like I'm going to be like, I don't want this to come away the way that I'm saying, but it's like I've joked because like my daughter's like 22, and I've always joked around that folks at the ages between about 18 and 25, maybe even a little older, and there's always exceptions with this. It's just a generalization, is that, there's still a lot of learning going on, especially mentally, and there's a lot of like mental development going on with life, in general. And it's like, I'm reading psychological studies that talk about how that the brain is still growing between, all the way up until your 30s, they say. So like when a guy like Steve Young comes on TV and says, the game slowed down to me finally once I started, working for several years in San Francisco, where he was working for several years in San Francisco, in his mid-20s and not playing as much, behind Joe Montana. And it was only 30 when he started. And this whole idea of like self-correcting principles and abstract thought and, disciplined and critical thinking, and being able to look at how you're thinking and make changes to that. Those are things that are still, apparently they say, are developing in the brain all the way into your 20s and oftentimes sometimes into your early 30s. Mm-hmm. So it's like, when you look at players and try and project whether somebody can learn and develop, a lot of that also kind of depends on the environment that they're going to be in and what they're going to get set up to learn. And obviously, you're already doing a lot of this type of work and working with coaches to come up with new things and create that. But there's a lot of guys who are in their early 20s who, you go, are they just going to go, well, it's just God-given ability, this is what I do, and they lean on that, and how much are they going to improve?
Exactly.
All right, so let's look at the next one here. And that looks more like just one that's bouncing out.
Yeah. That's just bouncing. I was probably exhausted by this time.
All right. Well, then let's go to the next set of ones, because we looked at the three-way cuts. We looked at the three-way cuts with pad level. Now we have them with a jump cut. And let's see if we can pull that one up the way I had it. Let's not get lost. There we go. All right.
So this is essentially the same drill, but now we're doing two cuts. So I took out the crossbar. I took out all three different agility bags, and I put one at the point of attack. So off of that one, I'm going to make one cut. I'll make one jump cut, and then I'm going to make a cut on at the third level. So now in this particular drill, I make a cut through the line of scrimmage, and now I make a cut off that linebacker, which is probably a double team coming up to that block. And now if you look at the far left cone on the second level, that I'm pretending, well, you can't see it in the drill, but I'm pretending that is a safety pursuing. So now I am running away from him, and on the back end, I'm doing a speed cut, getting back north and south.
So what's the anatomy of a good jump cut?
You want pad level. You want to kind of stay compact, but you want to be able to get as far as you can. So that bag right there is a good measurement of how far you can I can make this jump cut, and it's probably way farther than I'll ever have to make a jump cut. But it's good to simulate further than it is shorter, so I can always make that adjustment. But just keeping your pads low. Keeping your feet on you, cutting off the right foot is a tough thing, You know, I can admit that I cut off of the wrong foot a lot, but I'm able to. You know, I lower my pad level enough. I'm balanced enough to be able to get away with it sometimes. Sometimes I'll slip and fall, but a lot of times people will slip and fall if you cut off the wrong foot, which is the inside foot. But this one's I'm actually cutting off the right foot. I'm cutting off my right, which you know helps with the jump cuts. You always want to cut off that outside foot.
So, you know, you often see guys in, you know, NFL highlights who are very elusive and they make these jump cuts that just are, you know, really wide. You know, and you just talked about how, you know, you probably won't have to use one too much there, but you often see guys with that. And I think fans get wild when they see somebody make like a jump cut that just seems like that they laterally went a huge distance, you know, with that. But would you say that, you know, while length is something that you're trying to look for, or the width of the cut is something that you're looking for, it, you know, probably the more having control and economy, having control with it is probably the most important thing that you can try to achieve.
Absolutely. You know, I could jump much further than what I am right now, but I'll probably be drifting forward as I'm doing it. And if I'm drifting forward, I'm drifting into the tackle. The reason why that bag is there is to make sure that I stay flat on my cut. So now I'm not cutting upfield. I'm not cutting backwards. I'm just cutting straight laterally. And that takes control. That takes all kinds of body control to be able to do that, balance. So, you know, those big jump cuts that you see, they are impressive. But what's more impressive is being able to stop running full speed, stop on a dime, and then move a different direction, and not drift forward or backwards while you're doing it.
Gotcha. And then also probably restart.
And yep, being able to restart and take off again.
Good stuff. Let's go watch this just one more time because yeah, that's very fascinating. And I do like the fact that you're, you know, I mean, again, you're simulating a defender here, and being able to make sure that you're not, like you said, drifting into him, and then being able to make a controlled move to get to the outside and then cut back to the inside. Great stuff. All right, so let's look at that next one. And I just got to know on air because I got to ask, what's your dog's name?
Gabby. Can you hear her?
Yeah.
Like I said, they've cut down about 3 trees today. So she is looking out the window, barking at them right now.
There you go.
She is, like I said, she's about 6 pounds, but she's got the heart of a 80-pound pit bull.
Most pit bulls I know have the disposition of a 6-pound puppy though.
Do you have the other hold on, let me see. The other cut ups too? I know you have the cuts, the 3-way cuts. Did you look into footwork, reaction, any of those folders?
Let me look and see if I've got that real quick and see. Let's see where are you? I've got cuts, and that's what I got. I didn't get I didn't get footwork and reaction. I don't think I got resisted cuts, cutbacks, 90-degree cuts, slalom cuts.
Can we hold on? Say that one more time.
Okay, I've got 90-degree cuts, cut back, resisted cuts, and slalom cuts.
Okay, those are okay. Those are all the ones you got?
Those are all the ones I got.
All right. We can definitely go through those. There's a lot more there's a lot of other stuff that's on there that there's reaction. I don't know if you can share my screen, if you could see my screen.
I think if you want, what we can do is stop this, and if you go to on Hangouts, there's a screen share in the upper left-hand corner that's in the green screen, and click that. Then you can follow that and then share the screen with us.
Let's do that.
Okay.
Let's do that. And I can, yeah, definitely. So what are we gonna do here? Just hang up and do it again?
No, actually,
I just gotta hit the button.
Yeah, you just got to hit that screen share button.
Did it work?
Not just yet. Do you see there's like a button that's like it's on the left-hand side
Oh,
moving?
I see it, and it's I want the desktop, I think.
Okay, yeah, and there we go. And then you would just up in the upper, yeah, then you're going to see like a bar that basically says share with all. And then in your, you know how it shows in the bottom right-hand corner, like you and me on
Uh-huh.
split screens, you're going to click yours and just click on that so that it
Oh,
shares. I think that it should share the screen. Let's see if it does.
I don't know what just it made
There it
it.
is. There it is. It's just showing me, but it's okay.
Okay, that's good. Okay, so how do I know if it's sharing, if I'm sharing with all?
That was it where you were just before.
I need to go back to something.
Yeah, right there.
This.
Yeah. And then you just need to and then once you do that, then there's a screen on the bottom right that you just click on to hide where until it's like highlighted in white.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. Am I sharing it with everyone? Okay. Um, so like I said, I took these videos and I posted them up online about a little over a year ago. And we just went through a lot of the cuts. We can look at a few more of these. These are 90-degree cuts. Let's see what this looks like. No, this is one of the drills that I've always done. That's David Cobb in the yellow shorts. You can't see him anymore, but this is just working on footwork, making sure that next step, the next step after each cut is big, and you're doing it in such a small, area makes it that much harder. But you want, when you slow your feet down, you make this nice cut. You want that next step to be as big as possible. You want to gain as much ground as you can. So all these are 90-degree cuts. It's just another basic drill that I've done with quite a few coaches over the years. Let's see if this will load up. You see, if you can see my shirt, it's covered in sweat. I've been working out with these guys for a while.
Right. So when you're talking about, gain as much ground as possible, can you give me like a practical situation why that's important?
Well, definitely. For this particular drill, if you see, I am stepping over, almost crossing my feet over with my next step. A lot of times, and this is something that I once again I picked up when you are running into the offensive line, and maybe exactly where the play is supposed to be, the hole is not there. Maybe the hole is maybe 6 inches to 2 feet one direction or the next. So you want to be able to pick your feet up. You don't. It's too little a space to make a jump cut, but it's just enough space to make this step over cut. So you want to make it as big as possible because you're not jumping. Your feet are never leaving the ground. So you want to be able to step over into the next hole, whether it be, like I said, 6 inches, 2 feet, 3 feet away from you, but it's just too small of an area to make a full jump cut.
Interesting. It's amazing because when I watch this, we've talked about this before, but everyone likes to talk about how instinctive the running back position is. And while I think a lot of athletic endeavors require learning enough skills to a level that you have body memory so that you're reacting to it, there's still a ton of preparation and things that you can do to really hone these skills.
Definitely. If you see to emphasize that big step, you'll see my off arm swing much harder when I'm trying to take that step. And the reason I'm swinging it is to emphasize getting my knee up and making that next step even bigger.
Yeah. I see what you're saying.
It's just like, you teach you teaching a safety how to turn when the pass is in the air. You want him to throw that elbow back. I gotta turn that down. Like I said, I like to talk crazy when I'm working out. You teach him to throw that elbow back to open up his chest, to open up his hips, so he can make that turn and drive to where he needs to go, as opposed to losing ground by taking multiple steps in the same place. That's what I'm not trying to. I'm trying to avoid taking multiple steps in the same place.
Excellent. Who are some of the guys that you've seen who are just like really great at this type of a maneuver?
LaDainian Tomlinson for sure. He's one of the guys I grew up watching. He had great feet all the time. I don't know if you can see David Cobb back there. He's worn out. He is worn out.
He must have had fond memories of working out with you, though, because when I went to the Senior Bowl and went to interview him, I told him that that I knew you and that we had done some work together, and he just lit up.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I've told you before, man. I watched the bowl game that he had his junior year, and I watched it live because I was playing for the Texans at the time. They played in Houston, so it was right after one of our workouts. Then one of our games. Then we watched it later when I went to Minnesota during this time. We watched it on film, and we counted every yard that he could have gained if he would have made a different decision. And I would make him write it up on the board, like how many yards did you miss on this play? And he had to go over to the board and write it. And at the end of the day, it was like almost 200 yards that he missed out on because he drifted or he made a jump cut when he could have made a cut like I'm showing one of these 90-degree cuts right here. Or, small things like that. He missed a hole. He didn't follow his blocks. Things like that. Now, he couldn't have gotten all 200 yards, but, that's just showing
the
potential of each play and how many yards you're actually leaving out on the field when you run. So, I love David, man. We had such a great time while I was there. He trained with me. Really, I had to train twice because I would train in the morning by myself, and then in the evening, him when he was out of class. Their quarterbacks, those are two quarterbacks back there doing it with me. They just loved what we were doing, so they came out, and we just worked out for a second time each day. Nice. every day for 2 weeks. So, nice. Yeah, I had a lot of fun up there. Learning those, meeting those guys, and working out with them. And David had a lot of potential, as you can see this year. He had a lot of potential, and he just needed to focus on the little things. He had the athletic ability. I don't think he, at that point in his career, had gone back and looked at those, broken down those little small things and parts of the game. And those, as you can see, those little small things make a huge difference.
Excellent. So resisted cuts. So what's the purpose of doing some of these resisted cuts?
As I said, and for the last clip, you want that next step to be as big as possible. So this is something me and my trainer at my gym, you can see EFT on the wall right there. This is a sports performance gym in Chicago. We sat down and we thought about it. How can I make my step bigger on each cut? So we've set up some cones. Like this is a normal cone drill for running backs. I'm sure every running back from the high school level up has done this drill, but I'm almost positive they've never done it with 3 oversized rubber bands on their waist. So you probably won't be able to see my trainer. There he is. He's pulling. Turn it down. He's pulling me into my cut, so that when I put my foot in the ground, I have to emphasize as hard as possible, getting my leg as far as possible, as far as I can, to make this cut as big as I can.
Nice.
So he's pulling me and he's resisting on my cut. And as you see, my foot kind of stays in one spot because it's hard. That was probably my first time doing it. The more I did it, the better I got at it.
Nice.
This is something we just kind of invented on the fly. Oh no, that one's not as good either. But there it is.
But yeah, I mean, but again, I go back to the musician reference, but I mean, one of my teachers who, played with a bunch of guys, in the New York scene and playing jazz and all this type of stuff. He wrote a book on patterns, because he wanted to learn how to play certain intervals, because when you're a musician, certain intervals are really pleasing to hear on the instrument, and they're very hard to achieve, to play smoothly. From a technical standpoint, physical standpoint, and you have to really work at them so that they become a natural part of your playing.
Exactly. So I love doing this drill. It really teaches you to open up your hips, um, pick up your foot, and try to take it as far as you can. And when you take that rubber band off, the next time I do this, or next time I'm doing this drill, without the rubber band, you're going to see my knee drive is going to be crazy, and my step is going to be, extra long, just because I'm simulating trying to resist as much as possible.
Excellent.
Just another silly thing that we kind of just put together on the fly. Let's see what this is. I can't really remember. Oh yeah. This is a drill that David Walker, who my running back coach was with the Indianapolis Colts my rookie year. This is a drill that he showed me, and it's just a cutback drill. You see David, he's simulating a linebacker, and this is the cone in the middle is where I'm going to cut. So I'm trying to get him to over pursue, and when he over pursues, I'm working on putting my foot in the ground and cutting back off of him. So that's what David is simulating right there. He didn't do it the second time, but let's look at the other clip of it. See if this is any better.
So what are you doing to try and get him to over pursue?
I am stepping on his toes. I am keeping my shoulders square to the direction that I'm running, and I'm trying to lean as long as I can before I have to make that cut back. So the cone is there so that I don't make the cut before too early. He's going to come off the cone tight. So I have to get all the way to the cone. I got to step on his toes. Some coaches say, smell his breath before you make the cut. And that's what that cone is simulating there. I push this as far as I can before I make that cut back.
Interesting. Okay. And then it just becomes and I would imagine that this becomes a timing, feel, key thing of what you're looking for with the linebacker. But I would also think that because you're so close to the linebacker, if you were doing it just by sight alone, that it would be a very difficult thing to adjust to.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it would be. So, David's going to come at different speeds, different, almost different angles as far as how close to the cone he's going to come. But I just trying to get him leaning just a little bit, stick my foot in the ground and get by him.
Anybody currently in the league who you feel does this very well?
Yeah, Shady McCoy. LaShawn McCoy is great at this. Darren Sproles has always been great at this. Just guys, those smaller guys who run well. I mean, Ahmad Bradshaw is good at this, because this is not necessarily a play. This is not necessarily a play where you're gonna make this guy completely miss. You are probably going to get contact here. And those smaller running backs, those Frank Gores, those Ahmad Bradshaws, those guys, they're used to taking this hit, and they know how the hit's going to hit them, and they're prepared for it. But they're going to deflect it, as opposed to taking the brunt of it because of the cut.
Nice. It's funny because you mentioned a lot of running backs I really have always liked, especially like Ahmad Bradshaw. So that's funny.
Man, you're gonna hear me when I reference running backs. I kind of like to reference guys that I play similar to. Ahmad Bradshaw, Frank Gore. They've all been my height. About 5'9", a little over 200 pounds. 200 pounds to 217. I've been everywhere in between there. So that's just, that's the guys that I like to watch, who I like to learn from.
Sure. And I think they're the sweet, honestly, I think those guys are that size that you guys are in that range is kind of the sweet spot for the running back position in a lot of respects. I mean, I do love the fact that the running back position has as wide of a definition for what the physical dimensions can be, but but that's to me that 5'8" to 5'11", 190 to 210 is a really nice sweet spot.
Now, remember the 90 degree cut drill that we looked at it earlier. This is it more simulated into game form. So this is a high school that I work with. This is actually my high school that I helped take the running backs through this year. We did some things, and what this drill is showing, I don't know if I have a bad clip on here, but I know this is probably the best kid at it, is he's taking that 90 degree cut, he's stepping over into the next hole, and then he's getting straight up field. So if you look at the footwork of it, his feet look very similar to the 90 degrees, besides the fact that he's coming forward on his next step. But he's actually going to put his foot in the ground. He's going to turn it. He's going to open up his hips. He's going to put his foot in the ground, and he's going to step over. And that's what the 90 degree drill is to try to simulate, stepping over one hole.
Gotcha. So like 1 foot, he needs to get 1 foot over that first vertical pad, and then get the other foot over the angled pad.
Yep, and then get north and south, and that's what the other angled pad is for. It's not going to be, you're not going to be perfect with be able to stick your foot in the ground and get north and south immediately, because this is a very difficult cut to do. So so we put it at an angle so that they know that they're still supposed to be coming forward once they get out of it. But he probably had the best footwork at all the kids, and I've only done that drill probably. I made that drill up that day, I believe. Here's an example. This is an example of a bad one.
Yeah, it's very clear.
And you see how loose his hips, how tight his hips are. Look how wide he gets on his cut, as opposed to putting his foot in the ground, coming straight back north and south. He's getting widening out, and it's taking him longer to get to the next set of agility bags. So even though this kid is probably one of the fastest kids on the team, his hips are too tight for him to make this play. So that's something he's had to work on.
So what are some things you work on in addition to a drill like this to get your hips a little looser?
I do a lot of stuff with hurdles. So stepping over hurdles, doing a bunch of different things, and I mean full-size track hurdles. Okay. So I do a lot of work with hurdles. When I train at EFT, we do hurdles every day to open up them hips and get loose. This, like I said, this has to be tight, north and south cut. And I mean, this kid, this is a junior, and he was actually a starter for a while, but the best drill was from a sophomore. This is a JV player, but he had very loose hips, and he wasn't extremely big, and he wasn't extremely good at other things, but this type of stuff he was very good at. And when I'm talking to the coaches, I'm telling them, hey, this kid Ricky, which is his name, this kid Ricky can be something. He's got the athletic ability. He just needs somebody to help him, focus on what he needs to do with the ball in his hands. But he's got the ability to do it.
That's nice. And I bet he was pretty encouraged to hear that too,
Definitely. Let's what was that? Was that footwork?
Let's do footwork.
Okay. Now this is 180 degree turns. This is more of a wide receiver drill, but it's a lot of fun to do. So what we're doing here is I have 4 cones set up. I have 4 cones set up. The first 2 cones are about 3 yards apart, and then there's cones 5 yards apart from them. And what I'm doing is I'm doing high knee karaoke or tapioca, whichever one. I think I'm doing tapioca here, and I am with my back to a quarterback. And as I get to that top of that cone, the top cone, I'm trying to stick my foot in the ground and turn all the way around and stay flat on this line.
Can you back up a second and explain to our audience what a karaoke and a tapioca
Well, I can put it here in slow motion.
Okay.
Karaoke is it's a step over drill where you're stepping over each foot. You know, you either do you can do karaoke, you can do high knee karaoke where you're bringing your knee up to your chest as you're stepping over your other leg, and then you're going behind your other leg with your other foot. So here I am going over and behind, over and behind. Now this is tapioca because I'm staying real. My feet are never really coming too far off the ground. My knees not coming to my chest. I'm just tapping my feet. That's why we call it tapioca, as opposed to karaoke, which I'd be lifting my knee up over my other knee.
And you'd see, like, oftentimes they love to show Jerome Bettis on Monday Night Football doing this when, years ago in warm-ups and Steelers games.
And it's a quick drill. It's a warm-up drill that really opens your hips up. It gets your hips loose and get you being able to turn. Like, I'm trying to keep my shoulders square to the sideline the entire time, and I'm only moving my lower body. So that's karaoke, tapioca, essentially both of those drills. But we'll pull this at full speed so you can see how difficult it is to hit that and turn all the way around, catch a football. So what makes this drill difficult, and I'll have to slow it down so you can see it, and where the emphasis is right here, putting your foot in the ground, turning around, and staying flat. What a lot of guys will end up doing is, see, I put my left foot in the ground, I put my right foot in the ground, I put my left foot in the ground, and now you see how far back my right foot is?
Yeah.
I do not want to take another step either up the field or behind me at all. My next step with my right foot needs to be flat down this line.
It's got to cross over.
It's got to cross all the way over. So being able to get it to that point is difficult.
And that is a hip thing, because I bet a lot of people, when you say you're got to turn your hips and do that, they're just turning their leg and not fully using their hip.
Exactly. I don't know if I have any bad clips of this on here, but we'll see. Maybe this one isn't as good. Nope, that one's all right. But what will happen is a lot of guys, and I'll get to it, a lot of guys in this area will put their left foot back down on the ground before they've changed the direction. I always told you, next step has to be a big step. And that's the big step right there that we need. And what guys will do is they'll put their foot down right here.
Yeah, well before the cone.
Exactly. As opposed to getting it all the way around to where they need to be. And that just, taking that step out speeds up how fast I can turn around by, just that much. Look how fast I'm around and I'm looking for the ball.
Yeah, and to give an on-play example, an example of if you take that short step before the cone and don't get that turn fully in and flatten that out, you're opening your backside up to someone covering you from behind and trailing to come across and cut off of the route.
Exactly. Now, there's no route that I know of where I will be facing one direction doing tapioca and then turning and turning 180 degrees around.
Now, maybe an 8-year-old playing Madden, if he could figure out a way to hack that and do it, would probably have a good time doing that. But yeah,
but just overemphasizing the drill is what makes it good, because now when I'm coming across on a drag route, when I'm running straight and I put my foot in the ground and I can make this turn without having to drift upfield, which is really what that extra step will make you do. That extra step will make you drift, and you want to come flat. So,
yeah, to me, this almost looks like, those baseball drills when you play baseball and somebody, you almost close your eyes, they throw the ball up and you have to track it real fast. And It's almost like a footwork drill where you're doing all this, tapioca and karaoke to just get yourself trained so that you are making sure that you are flattening out the route. Everything before that is just kind of more of a distraction factor, as if you might as well could be running out and have just, had to chip a defender, or you stumbled, out of your route, or something crazy happened during the beginning part of that play, but you still have to be able to, cross over there. And it's just getting your mind right that at the instant, and even in an inconvenient instant, you can do it.
Exactly. Exactly. So no matter where your body is at your landmark, you can stop and make that turn.
That's great. That's a great exercise. Yeah, I can see why that's fun to do.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to turn around, track the ball, because you're always scared he's going to hit you in the face as you're turning around. and that's what really makes you turn around, get your head around faster. Is you're afraid he could just pop you right in the face as you're turning around. So you get your head around fast, get your hands up, track the ball, and make the catch.
Excellent. That's great.
Okay, let's see what else we have here. We went through all those. Angle cuts, slalom. I haven't looked at these in a while.
That's cool. This is fun. I mean, this is. I don't care really about anybody else. This is very good for me. So, if y'all are getting good stuff out of this, good for you. But I'm getting a massive amount out of this, so I'm going to be watching this video a lot.
Okay, so this is another normal running back drill. I don't change a whole lot to it, but now I have the slalom step in there. And when I say, anytime you hear me say slalom as the running back position, slalom in any athletic workout is stepping over something. So slalom jump, you're jumping over a line or jumping over something. So with anything that I have with slalom in it, I'm stepping over. So this is a slalom cut because my next step is stepping over my previous one, which is very different than making angle cuts, which I'm putting my foot in the ground, I'm pushing off, and I'm going the next direction. So these drills look very similar, very similar. You'll see just the regular one, angle cuts, in a second. We'll look at those next, but you can see how far my right leg is stepping over my left when I make a cut on the right side, or the very opposite for my left leg when I make a cut on the left side. How far it's really training to cut off your inside foot.
Gotcha.
It's really what it is. It's training to learn how to cut off your inside foot. And you have to. Do you see how low I am as I'm doing it? If I'm not that low to the ground, I'm gonna slip every single time.
Yeah, you're just gonna be top heavy.
Yep. So, being able to do this is like they teach you not to do it. They teach you not to cut off your right foot or your inside foot. But if you know how to do it and when to do it, it can be very helpful, very useful.
Which is understandable, because you look at a guy who cuts off his inside foot sometimes, I think, is No. Marino.
Yep.
And he would slip on occasion. You'd see that, and I'd hear people criticize him, go, "Oh, he cuts off his inside foot too much,"
Yep.
But when you see things were going well for him, and he can make some really nice plays off of that.
And you know me, man. I studied Noshan for a very long time. Noshan was my guy, and when he was in college, he was my go-to guy to watch because we had some very similar styles, and we had similar abilities. I never thought I was that fast in college. Apparently, I'm told I'm a lot faster than I thought I was, but I always thought I was a slower, bigger back. This is me slowing it down right here, walking through it. So this is the first time that I'm doing it.
Nice.
Just like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
You got to slow things down. And now look how I'm emphasizing stepping over with that next step.
Yeah. One more time. Nice. Good.
So I think that's all of those. Let's go back.
Now, it's a shame with Noshan and his injuries. That was the real shame of it.
It is. Tempo change. Let's look at these. Now these are a lot of fun. This is another drill that my trainer thought up himself. And I told him we need to work on being able to play at different tempos, being able to start out fast, slow down to make the move that I need to make or make the decision I need to make at this level, and then be able to speed back up at the next level. So what he did was we started out doing the regular handoff where I take the inside zone steps, I'd come down, and then I'd make a jump cut. And after I made the jump cut, when I landed, he had cones set up, and I would do a different exercise on that cone, whether it would be double taps through. I did quite a few things. Double taps through, maybe karaoke, maybe step overs. I'm not sure. I can't remember exactly everything that I did. So then I had to focus and slow down and make sure that my feet were in the right spot. And then I would accelerate through barriers, which are like small small hurdles. So I have to accelerate again. So it was all about being able to slow down, change your tempo up, and still be able to focus on what you're doing and do it properly, and then speed back up and burst out of whatever you're doing.
Nice. And I'm going to love these because one of the things I try to emphasize to people who ask me about watching running backs is when we talk footwork in general, but just talking about how varying the pace as well as the length of your steps. And this is great stuff.
This drill right here feeds in exactly what you just said. So I'm doing little hop cuts in between, and I'm accelerating through. That was probably the one I like the least out of all of them, because it's so hard to make all those jumps and run at full speed and then accelerate through.
Yeah, but I would imagine too that you guys are making this, just like any exercise, you make this probably a little harder than it's going to be.
Absolutely.
So that if you can be super precise here, you're going to have room for error in the league.
Absolutely. This is probably my favorite one. And probably the hardest one is because I'm slowing down, and instead of where those jump cuts, I can still move at the same speed that I was. I just got to focus on getting my feet in the right spot. This one, I actually have to slow everything down and get every tap that I'm supposed to get for every cone.
Nice.
And then accelerate through. The workout we did this day, the whole workout we did was amazing. And like I said, most of it was all stuff we made up. The first thing we did was the resisted cuts. And then this is the second thing we did. And you're going to love the last thing we did.
Well, before we do that, I do have a question for you, because it reminds me of something. I interviewed a young man a week ago who was a Florida State point guard for a while. He was a top 20 recruit at one point. And this was several years ago, back in like the early 2000s. And he talked about how his dad always told him he needed not to overwork his body. And he was, a real hard worker and was always working on ball control drills and everything. But he started developing issues with his knees and ended up at a point where, while he got the scholarships and played for a little bit, he ultimately had to leave school midway through his career, or leave the program midway through his career and find another, and quit basketball essentially, because he wasn't going to, he had to have multiple knee surgeries. And he said part of it was that he just didn't listen to advice that he got about resting his body and pacing himself with the type of work he's doing. So with that kind of lead up, can you answer for folks who may be watching this, who are younger, and talking about, what kind of time between doing these types of drills in a day that should they have to kind of rest themselves?
I would like to get almost close to about 80 to 100% rest between each drill, so that my body can recover and I'm going full speed when I do it. Because if I'm not going full speed, then I'm more prone to getting injured. And so like I would walk back, I would relax, I'd take some water, and I would make sure that I'm focusing on each small intricate detail of the drill. And I can't do that when I'm exhausted, because I got to be able to get this to become a reflex, so that when I am exhausted, it is coming naturally and I don't have to think about it. But as I'm trying to learn how to do it now, I need to be fresh as I'm doing it, because if I'm not fresh, I'm going to slack off. And like I said, you need 27 times of doing something over and over again before it becomes a reflex to you. I'm gonna have to start over with my 27.
And that just shows you how much of this is mental as it is physical.
Yep. This is actually all three. Now, and even with that being said, when I would do these running back drills, I would only do 3 drills. It would only be 3 drills, and this was one of the 3 drills. The resisted cuts was one. This was the other, where I probably did 3 reps on each side, and then that was it. And then I did my last drill, which, like I said, you're really going to enjoy my last drill, and then I was done. Like I can't go out here and do 6, 7, 8 drills and think by the time I get to my 5th drill, I'm still my body's still doing this at a high percentage. So we focus on a few things, and this is what I'm going to work on today. Just these 2 or 3 details, and this particular detail is changing your tempo.
And how often would you do these drills? Say, like, would you do those 3, and then like how long before you would do them again? Like how many days or how many?
I probably did these drills twice a week.
Okay.
Not necessarily these particular drills, but I would work on these things, these football skills twice a week. I would work out 4 times a week, and one of those I'd work out 4 times a week, and then I would do one of these drills after I like lifted weights. And then for my 4th workout of the week, I would only do this.
Gotcha. Okay, good.
So, yeah, that's my tempo drill.
Sweet. All right, now let's look at this one that you're telling me I'm gonna like. Not that I haven't liked any of these, so.
Well, let's build up to it. Let's build up to it.
Okay.
This is being able to read blocks. You're coming over barriers. You're coming over agility bags, and you're reading a block at the 2nd level, whether it goes left or it goes right. You're reading it and you're reacting. So all this is a reaction. Cones are there. Cones are there to, the agility bags are there to simulate going through the offensive line. And then the pop-up bag that the coach is holding is 2nd level block, and I'm just cutting off the 2nd level block.
Cool deal.
It's a real quick drill. I've been doing it since high school, so it's nothing new. It's just something to read and react, and that's real life, kind of drill.
Now, would you say, just out of curiosity, as someone who, obviously hasn't done any of these drills in his life, but has been watching running backs for a lot of years, you always talk about knees up because it gets your feet up and gets your feet off the ground. But I also thought that it kind of had an ancillary benefit of when your knees are up and if someone's reaching for you and trying to grab you, when you're moving your legs that dramatically and your knees high, it's also a very forceful movement that makes it hard for somebody to really grab and latch onto your legs too.
Absolutely. You'll see guys like, Brandon Jacobs back in the day. He had great knee drive, and a lot of people would jump at his legs, and he would run right through them because his knees were up. It wasn't because he was 260 pounds, because we've seen a lot of guys who are really, really big who you think should break a lot of tackles that don't. And that's because of their knee drive. And, that's why, this is not the first drill that you've seen that I've emphasized getting my knees up.
Yeah. Walter Payton was one of the greats at this. He probably dented a few helmets doing this type of thing.
Yep.
And and when you think of Walter Payton, it's almost surprising when you watch him and you think of what his size was. Because he was small. He was not small, but he was small compared to what you would think when you watch what he does power-wise.
Exactly. I think I messed up on that one. I think I went the wrong way.
Okay.
But that's good because, this isn't something that you can this isn't a drill you just jump in full speed. Yeah, I went the wrong way and I ran into the dummy. But, sometimes, you're not prepared for it, and you have to slow down. You have to make sure that you're doing things right. And when you get used to going over the agility bags and not looking at them, then you'll get used to looking up at the defender the entire play, and then you'll get quicker with your reaction. And just right here, I was anticipating as opposed to reacting, and I anticipated the wrong way.
Gotcha.
All right, let's get to the drill.
All right.
You're, like I said, you're gonna like this.
All right.
So what we did was, I talked to my trainer, and you'll see him. He's in the back. The guy in the front is Landon Cox. He played wide receiver with me at Northern Illinois. He did a stint in Cincinnati, and then he also played in Tampa for a little bit. But what you're going to see is I have 2 cones. I have 4 cones set up in a square, probably about 7 to 8 yards apart.
Okay.
I have a pop-up dummy on the first set of cones, and that's being manned by Landon, and he's going to turn it one way or the other. I don't know which way he's going to turn it. Just like in the last reaction drill, he's going to turn it one way or the other. So, that's pretty basic. That's something that, all running backs have done since the beginning of time is reaction drills. But what do you do after you make that reaction? I remember in college and even in high school, we would do that reaction drill and then we just kind of just drift off. We'd hit it and then we just kind of jog off out of the drill. Well, what I wanted to work on, and I told my trainer this, his name is Jacob Ross, and he is, you'll see him in a second. He's a big guy. You would have thought he played football for real too, but because he's built like an outside linebacker. But I told him, I want to work on making 2 cuts in a small area, because that's what guys like LaShawn McCoy can do. That's what guys like Darren Sproles can do. They can make 2 guys miss in a small area. You hear of, you can shake them in a phone booth.
Yep.
Well, this is a drill to work on that, being able to make 2 moves in a small area in succession. So right after one after another.
I'm gonna love this, definitely.
So what we did was, like I said, Landon Cox is here holding this pop-up dummy, and he's going to turn it one way or the other. I'm going to cut off of him. Jacob is standing at the second line of cones, and what he is doing is he has a physio ball. That's one of those real big balls that you see in the gym that people work out with. They do sit-ups and stuff on them. I don't know. But he's got one of those, and he's going to throw it at me. And what my job is, to, after I make this cut off of Landon, get my eyes up to see which direction he's throwing it, because he could throw it at my inside, he could throw it at my outside, and I have to make either a jump cut or a spin move off of it to avoid being hit by the ball. So without further ado, that's probably one of the first times we ever did it. So this is slow, a slower speed. We sped it up quite a bit, but first cut and then see it.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find a good one. But I'm not really. I was before this. I wasn't a guy who used spin moves a lot. I wasn't here. You see, I'm telling him speed it up. But I wasn't a guy who used a whole lot of spin moves. I did a lot of jump cuts, and also the thing is, I have to stay inside the square as I'm making each cut. I can't drift outside of the square, and that's what makes it a small area.
So why have you found value in spin moves now? Just to kind of outline that to people even in more detail.
But I see. I wasn't ready for that one.
Yeah.
Because you've heard me say that it's about deflecting hits as opposed to taking hits or absorbing hits. And what I found is with this drill that I've learned how to deflect a hit with a spin move. Every spin move doesn't have to be where the guy never touches you like that. But I can get hit on my inside shoulder and let my inside shoulder go dead as I spin around. So I'm really deflecting the hit as opposed to absorbing it.
Yeah, and that's a more accurate way of describing it than I have to somebody. But like Jamal Charles does that extremely well.
Yep.
He is very good. I always try and tell people, when you talk about power for a back, the reason he succeeds so well, even though people look at him and say he's not a big back, is that when he's initiating the contact, he's taking it to them. And I always show a play against Oklahoma where he spins off of a linebacker. I think it's either a linebacker or maybe even a D end coming down the line, and he sees the guy, got a clear shot on him, but he drops the shoulder first and then to initiate the spin. So he hits the defender first and spins off of it.
Yep. Yep. That's exactly right. That's exactly how you deflect it. You're not going to absorb it. Oh, this is all three of them put together, or a couple of them put together. So you can see there, I'm doing different things, but I'm never going to take that hit 100%. And I mean, that's really how you survive, playing this position, is you got to figure out how to not take the punishment. And, putting that spin move in, it's going to be contact there. It's going to be contact. You can't avoid it. But being able to let my shoulder go dead, spin off of it, as opposed to trying to just run through it, it's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge. It's a huge advantage for a running back.
Yeah, and I think that it's fun listening to this, because I've always felt like the running backs that I value have that mentality, that attacking mentality. They are going to get the first contact, and it doesn't have to be big contact. It's just contact to control. And I think it's the same thing with wide receivers off the line of scrimmage, or really any position. It's like, who's going to get the first contact and establish the control early?
Exactly. So he got me with this one. So, another thing that this really works on is understanding leverage. Understanding the leverage of where the linebacker is attacking you, or at this case, it could be the linebacker or the safety. You understand where he's coming from, where his leverage is, what angle he's taking, and then you play off of that. And that's what, that's how I know which direction to cut or which direction to spin. See, I messed up there. I guessed, and he threw it to my inside, and I'd cut inside. So, that's and I knew it right then and there. I walked off because he hit me with it. But being able to just read the bodies and anticipate where they're going to be and how you can adjust off of it is something that is not as natural as people think.
Right.
As you can see, if it was just that natural, I wouldn't be getting smacked in the face with the ball right there.
Exactly. And just as a reminder, folks, if you just been skipping around and you missed this, we are talking to a guy who was a 2010 MAC Player of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, who scored a lot of touchdowns in his college football career, and has had stints with the NFL. So, even at the highest levels, it's a learned skill.
Oh yeah. And I think when I stopped trying to play off of my natural abilities and I sat down, I spent time in the film room and studied, is when what made the difference in my college career and my career in the NFL. I actually took time to learn the game, learn my position, and learn each detail of how of what moves work when, why to do these moves, and what else to look for. When I figured that kind of stuff out, the game came easy to me, at least in college.
Yeah, and I think that's very important. I mean, and you see, I remember reading examples of this. I was a big fan of Ernest Biner growing up, and Ernest Biner, obviously now a running back coach, but he was, Priest Holmes credited Ernest Biner for really teaching him an awful lot about the running back position when they were in Baltimore together, and how he and Priest Holmes and Jamal Lewis all actually had film sessions at times, really studying the game and trying to learn how to break it down and break down also what they need to do at the position.
Yep. Now, if you look at this one, this is the last clip of it I have. It looks like it's a clean, pristine clip of it. I made the right cut, I made the right move, but what you don't realize, and what guys won't see with the naked eye, is I was leaning back. And if I'm leaning back, I'm absorbing the hit as opposed to deflecting it. So as soon as I lean back, I'm going down. If he hits me, I'm falling.
Yeah.
And that's one of the emphasis of this drill. And you got to be leaning forward when you make that move. So I can go back a couple clips. Let's go back a couple clips and see the difference. All right. Like I said, I like to talk a lot. That's just a jump cut, but still, you see the forward lean. Let's do this one. You see that forward lean. As soon as I give up that forward lean, it's over. If he touches me, I'm gonna fall down. Now, you see that when I'm still popping up a little bit, but I'm still leaning forward as I'm going through the cut.
Yeah. Yeah. And certainly, I mean, it's important that, you're always striving for perfection, but, you're often going to see when and I think this is important just for folks I know who watch this because they like evaluating players and they're trying to do this. And, you can talk about what perfect technique is, and certainly you can always talk about how that can be helpful. But if the player is effective, you're not always going to mark a guy down because he makes a jump cut and he's leaning backwards on one play.
Mm-hmm.
This is what you're aspiring to do, and understanding what the aspiration is, and knowing that sometimes if you get 90% of it, you're pretty golden on that play.
Yep.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
So what else we got going on here? Do we got anything else that we got on these?
Those are the end of those drills. Let me see. I can look. Reaction. No, those are just those.
That's it. So that's it.
Yeah.
I think that's what we got for there.
Yep.
This has been great. I mean, seriously, Chad, I really appreciate you sharing these, and I'm glad that we got to do them. It was funny because if it weren't for if you saying to me, I'm not sure who we should watch because of what we looked through, and I'm looking at these like, you sent these to me like months ago that we should do, and you suggested us doing this. And this is probably my favorite episode at this point of the ones that we've done, because it's been a very educational one. And plus, and I'm joking when I say this, I don't have to read any type of disclaimer or legal disclaimer saying that this is for educational purposes only.
Yeah.
So this has been awesome. And, and if I'm definitely looking forward to having you on again. And we'll, maybe we'll look at some 2016 guys, in the future when you have time, or look at some more drills as you come up with them, because this is awesome.
Yeah, no doubt. It was a lot of fun.
Awesome, guys. Well, we're gonna end this tape, and then I'm gonna say goodbye to Chad in a minute here. But for everyone else, thanks again for tuning in. And you can go to the MattWaldmanRSP.com to check out other RSP film rooms that are available there. This is number 45. So we've had a wonderful guests. And if you are someone who's interested in being a guest, and I haven't invited you, it's not because I don't like you. It's not because that I don't think you have anything to offer. It's just because I may not know you want to be a part of it, and I may not know you. And make yourself known and let me know. Thanks.